Christian Laettner was soft.
Overrated. Pretty boy.
A bitch.
What a time of year. Welcome back. So, we are here. Some people's favorite time of year. The way that some men cope with no football season. Me, I'm just thankful I can even hear the game with my neighbor's engine running out there. And I'm not over UVA losing to that's a tough one to pick because as a Miami fan, but also as somebody who grew up in Charlottesville and a lifetime Duke hater, where do you insert yourself into that equation? I don't know, but I did want UVA to win that one just because of, and I will say the one reason why I wanted UVA was because I'm just tired of Duke, like I always am at this time of year. But no, congrats to them, man. They handled the end of that game very well. I mean, they were getting dominated by the big man. UVA was step for step with them, and then they just mismanaged the situation at the end there, let too much time run off. And I mean, you got to give it to Duke. They went and handled that situation well, getting the rebound. Boozer gets it and he just holds it. He doesn't try and do anything else with it. That's championship mentality right there. And you are compensated when you get to the pros for moments like that. And that's exactly what happened with Duke. So congratulations to them. Purdue, another big winner. I was in my car on Sunday when Michigan and Purdue were playing. This guy because I started shuffling around the radio to see if I could find, I had the game on, and then that station cut out, and it comes back in later on eventually, but I was trying to find a backup to it, and the station I found is another, well, not found, but I went to first the other ESPN station in the area in Jacksonville, and the guy on there is just torching their coach, just going off on Purdue, and I'm sitting there like, you better choose your words carefully, because I feel like Purdue is a team that's not being talked about enough. I mean, going into the tournament, it was all about Arizona and Duke, and Vanderbilt became a story throughout the tournament, Miami of Ohio. And if I'm them, I'm playing with a tremendous chip on my shoulder going into this year, because it's a time where you can really separate your program. I'm talking basketball, but you can give your program attention, because I mean, look at Indiana, man. Did you think that they would make a statement like they did this year in football if I would have been asking you 5 years ago? But Purdue has not been lackluster like Indiana in football. They've been hanging around in the tournament year after year, and here we are once again. So it's time to go do it. They have to get, the shooting has to be dead on. I think they're going to have to, I mean, the way that they played was the best they've played all year, and they're going to have to step it up a notch from that. Obviously, yes, the shooting has to be on. Big men have to take over, and it's been a tournament of big men dominating the game. I mean, you look at UVA and how they really stayed in that game because of the legendary game that their center had for rejections. It was out of nowhere too. I mean, I have watched UVA all year, and I really didn't know a lot about that guy until he gets in there and just he kept them going when I think UVA was at times doubting themselves. I could be wrong here, but it's just what I saw in that game. And then you have mentioned Vanderbilt, of course. Florida just gets absolutely wrecked in that game. And Todd Golden, I mean, it was palpable the way he was just going after the refs. It was chippy that entire game. But Vandy, once they had momentum, they just ran with it. And that's what's so crazy to me is that Florida, I thought even still not having as good of a season last year and having some moments where they just looked flat. They were pedestrian in that game. To lose like that to a team that has really they were probably the biggest surprise of the tournament, Vanderbilt, but all year they didn't have a moment that stood out to me. And you get it done by 17 points. That was crazy to watch. But then, Arkansas, they go in there and they put they put it on Vandy in that game, and now we are just hours away from the first four, and Texas is an interesting one against NC State because NC State, I mean, I feel like while UVA got to the championship game, I feel like on another day, NC State would have won that game. They were rebounding really well. They had a hell of a game shooting free throws. They only lose by 7, and it was competitive up until the very end. Now you don't get compensated for losing games, but I feel like they're going to go out and they're going to be sharp against Texas, and I do feel like NC State could make a run in this tournament. Just how far we're going to see, but they're playing a Texas team that is really just they're kind of limping into this tournament. They didn't they got really the game that they got eliminated in got worked, and all year I just didn't see anything that makes them look impressive to me, like they're going to be a shocker. So I expect NC State to out rebound them, outshoot them. And while I want Texas to win, probably beat them by 10 or more. This is just one man's opinion, but then we have UMBC, which those are 4 letters you never say, in Charlottesville, Virginia. But congratulations to them on winning their conference. And I mean, if they could go in there and they're able to if they're able to make a run, who would have thought that this team in the past decade would become a fixture like Purdue, like a Marquette in the tournament, getting there every year, feels like, or at least every other year. I never would have predicted that, but I love seeing stories like that. I mean, who doesn't? Being the Rocky Balboa of the tournament, I could say, "Hey yo," but you've heard enough Stallone impressions in your lifetime, I'm sure. But UMBC, I mean, I expect them to get it done because they took it to a better team in the championship game than Howard did against their opponent, who had a losing record. So maybe it'll go the other way, but I think UMBC, this program has an expectation now to get in there and take it a little bit further than, say like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. If they would have gotten there, it would have been like, oh yeah, that's, the 16 playing the number one seed, they're going to lose by 40 or more. Not necessarily. And of course, we have the number one seeds and the big games coming up. Every game's a big game. But on Thursday, we have Florida, Arizona, and I believe it's Houston are the teams that are going to be opening up the season as the number one seed. Tomorrow, we have a couple more games before that happens. Miami of Ohio and SMU. I expect Miami of Ohio to rebound from an early exit in the tournament and get this win tomorrow. And Lehigh, Prairie View, that's a toss-up, but I think that I'm taking Lehigh by no more than 5 in that game. But yes, on Thursday we have the big games start. We have 4 Florida teams that are in the tournament. That's amazing to have Miami, South Florida, the Gators, and to have who did I leave out? I know I left someone out. Sorry. I said South Florida, UCF. So you're talking about the most dominant area in the country for basketball. I didn't want to butcher that, but yes, those 4 teams, that's pretty good. And for UCF to be playing UCLA, that's big for their program. I mean, I really respect the job that they have done getting that program to be where they are. There's a guy who he lived in Harrisonburg, Virginia, who is on the night. So that one's kind of obvious that I have to go for them also because they play UCF is playing UCLA, who I just despise. But Dawkins, shout out to that guy, man. He's put them on the map as far as hoops go because UCF, I mean, both those teams, I really didn't think much of them all year, but I mean, UCLA, I always expect to be competitive. I don't ever think of UCF when it comes to sports. I always think football with them. And second Florida team, I mentioned Miami and Missouri. That one, again, a toss-up game. Number 10 versus number 7. I expect the Canes to squeak out a victory there. But Miami, I don't want to say they're limping into the tournament, but they don't look their sharpest. against UVA. It really wasn't close. Speaking of Virginia, the runner-up in the ACC, we taking on Wright State. You have Villanova and Utah State. That's another toss-up game. That's going to be down to the wire, I think, but Nova should surge ahead. Iowa State, they should take care of business. In Alabama, same with them against Hofstra. Clemson, I think they'll get it done against Iowa. St. John's, they should advance. I already mentioned Purdue, they should get a blowout win. And UConn did look good, but not limping into the tournament. But I feel like a lot of people are picking against them as the tournament rolls on. But if you're there at the end of the tournament, obviously says something about your program. Watch out for UConn. They could sneak in there this year. I mean, Arizona has looked vulnerable at the end of the year, especially the final game of their regular season when they just knocked out Colorado to get a victory. You have Gonzaga at number 3, should take care of business against Kennesaw State. I have never pronounced that university because I've never said that name before. Never thought about them in sports before, but good for them, man. That's going to get some attention to your program playing Gonzaga. Gonzaga is a team that we're not really talking about going into this tournament, but they have, again, a team that has been in the tournament year after year after year. I went to school with a girl who graduated from Gonzaga, but I know nothing about the university. So that piece of information I just gave you, very irrelevant. Idaho and Houston. Houston, now they got eliminated by Arizona, but here's a team that has been in this tournament year after year. I feel like they're going to get to the Final Four this year just off of experience, just off of playing with a chip on their shoulder. That does sometimes carry teams, and I feel like it should go well for them down the stretch, but do they have what it takes to out-rebound a team like Duke and mental fortitude going forward throughout the tournament? And then you get to the end and you have to play the best teams when you're tired, when you're just worn out from classes, all of these things that you have to factor in. It's, I'm not sure, but I can pull for Houston because it feels like they always are just that close, in the Final Four in the last, 5-6 years, they've been twice under Sampson. So, man, I'm glad I'm off today. VCU, UNC. That's a toss-up for me, but I'm sticking with VCU in that one. I feel like that's going to be the upset of the tournament, even though it's not. It's kind of an unofficial upset because VCU's looked strong all year, and UNC banged up going into this game. I do feel like they should take care of business. Probably something like a 4-point win, if I had to guess. And then you have Illinois and Penn. Illinois should take care of business. Another toss-up game, a team that's not that far from me. Georgia, which good for their program standing out in basketball because you have all these teams in the SEC that have been nice throughout the years in football and basketball, like Alabama and Florida, but Georgia really has stepped it up with their program, and I feel like this could be a year where they stand out and they get a couple of impressive wins and show, hey, we're going to be around. But if you want to send me your bracket and let me know your picks for the tournament, I definitely want to know who you have in the first four. I want to know who's going to end up in your final four. This year, I mean, I've said that about sports before, where, in football, I feel like recent years especially, but this is truly a toss-up year because Duke has looked vulnerable in games. They've turned it up at the end of the season here, but Arizona, again, taking it home in the tournament, but they're going in not as experienced and showed some vulnerability at the end of the year. Who knows? And Houston, I mean, they get worked by Arizona, but have been in the Final Four in recent years. It's anybody's guess this year, but as far as I'm concerned, my Final Four, to be continued. I will be doing a show next week, I will be dropping my bracket online on Instagram and on YouTube posts, so you'll see who I'm going with, but I'm going to be doing a reaction show after the first round of games ends. We'll see when that happens. Hope you all are able to pull away and watch it, or watch your team. We'll see how this thing shakes out. But what do I always say at the end of the year? As long as it's not Duke or Florida State winning it all, it was a good season. Enter your team who you hate in place of those teams if you would like. Thank you for watching. May the net be with you.